because now and I think too, like what you learn and the traits that you pick up through entrepreneurship. Like I would recommend. I think every we're gonna pause right there.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to CEO Hot Seat. I'm Chris, owner of Swamp Rabbit Moving, and I got my co-host Ray Mack with Mack of All Trades and the Damian Hall Group. Today we got a special guest, Cameron Ledford with Ledford Billard Supply. Cameron, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Chris? What's up, Ray? Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. So tell me a little bit about what Ledford Billard Supply is.
Yeah, so essentially we do home entertainment furniture. So when you think of like a man cave, a game room, pool tables, shuffleboards, bars, all that good stuff, even stools, right? So we do a lot more than just pool tables, even though it's kind of like what you would think of when you hear billiard supply, right? So we manufacture, we resell. That's a main component. So we can build custom tables, even poker tables, bar stools, all that good stuff. So if you think of anything that would go into a man cave, we have access to it.
That's nice. Cool. Yeah. What got you into that?
So my father started this company in 1964.
Okay.
And I joined 2017 as a marketing guy. I had a digital marketing company, and I was trying to get clients, and I couldn't sell to save my life. I could not pay my rent. I was offering free marketing services to restaurants, to anybody that would let me in the door, and I couldn't even give my services away.
Wow.
So I'll go in to meet with him because I knew he had a business, and I was like, man, like, let me go in and take this, and surely I can close my dad, right? Like the mentor I had at the time he's like, well, your dad will do business with you. By the time I left the meeting, I'm working.
Nice.
I'm like, he sold me. And really what it was is at the time I was selling a product that made hundreds of dollars, like per, say commission-wise. And when I saw the margins on these furniture items he was selling, I really fell in love with the idea of, there's a 100% margin item. I can sell a $1,000 item and get paid $2,000 for it, and pretty much double the income. So I went from a $100 product to a $1,000 product. And then it became the whole thing of reviving a company that was kind of like on its brink, right?
When you say it was on its brink, what do you mean by that?
So 2017, we ended the year at $75,000 in revenue.
Okay.
Total.
Wow.
Like that's the gross.
Yeah.
And so we're up 1,400% on our last statistic. That is, we're right about $1 million
That's awesome.
in revenue a year.
Since you kind of got it going.
Yeah, and that's all since 2017. So in 2017, he was doing advertisement in Yellow Pages and newspapers.
Wow. Okay. So he was still stuck in the old times.
He turned 80 Saturday. So,
yeah.
He's an old guy, 75. He had me at 51. I'm 29. And, so really reviving the company was I saw it more or less like a challenge for me, right? Like, what can I do? And then I got the time to spend with my father, too, in his later part of his life. So that was another big component to it.
Do you account all your marketing abilities jumping into Ledford Billiards as a reason for 100% growth, or what do you attribute to all that growth?
Yeah, I would say so. I had a lot of marketing experience going into it.
Yeah.
So I did some stuff for GNC. I was a sales manager at Pivotal Fitness.
Yep.
I lasted for like 2 weeks, met the owner. He poured into me. His name's Dan Tobel. I shout this guy out all the time because he took about a week and just poured in all these different things that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
And I walked in after we finished all that, and I was like, "Look, man, everything you've told me, I got to go and build my own thing."
Nice.
And I was like, I had worked for him for like 2 weeks, and I basically told him I haven't been here long enough to hurt you.
Yeah.
Because that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to because you get employees, they'll be around for 6-8 months just after you've poured everything into them, and then they leave, and you're like,
yeah, they found an extra $1 an hour somewhere else. Or,
yeah, exactly.
Or a paid day off.
Exactly, right? So I didn't want to do that to him because I was so grateful, and I'd only been there for 2 weeks. I was like, I couldn't do much harm. So
are you still only doing marketing and stuff, or are you kind of gotten to the more of the...
I run the whole thing now.
Cool. So CEO of it.
Yeah.
That's your first experience with being a CEO? I've seen you had some other background with other businesses you've helped run.
Yeah. So since I came on to the billiard company, I've done 3 other projects. I call them projects because it's more like just like fun things for me. I love building a business, the whole aspect of taking an idea and seeing it come to life and getting the logos and then getting clients and, having all the pressure and the intensity of balancing that. But so I've done a landscape company. I've done a mobile detail company. I've done housing developments. That was a fun one. So we did a residential development in my hometown, Marietta, where I grew up, literally right across the street from the house I grew up in.
That's cool.
We got the land for like nothing. I think we paid like $4,000 for. It was an acre and a half. We put 5 lots on it. Completed a subdivision that I grew up in. So I was more or less. It wasn't necessarily profit driven on the project. It was more or less I wanted, like, can I find a builder who can partner with me? Can I go through all these? Can I figure out all this stuff that I have to do in order to develop property?
Yeah.
Can I learn? Can I do it successfully?
Nice. Which one out of the 3 were the biggest? So are you still, let me roll back a little bit. Are you attached to any of those businesses still?
Nah, so I've pretty much exited every single one of them other than the billiard company.
Okay.
So the residential development, obviously when I sold all 5 houses, I was out, right? And we did it during the pandemic, which was stressful, right? So like I'm tied in with everything, all my storage accounts. I'm at 0. Pandemic hits, I'm fuck. Like, this is a bad deal. Like, I'm going under. And somehow we sold all of them by the end of the year, you know,
Nice.
and you know, COVID kind of helped it.
Yeah, you got a
be
little
honest.
bit of a bigger pop out of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So that, but I would say, you know, Clean Whip Mobile, the mobile detailing company, right? Like we literally, I think the day I was over at your place doing it was the last week that I was part of the company. I exited
nice.
the following week. And 2, I start these deals because I see somebody who has like a skill, but doesn't necessarily know how to translate it and turn it into a business, right? So it's like they become self-employed. And so like I have the business aspect, I can get them out of the company. And so I work the business side while they work the operational side, while there's kind of like a side mentorship going on.
Yeah.
And then I own majority stake in the company, and then I'll sell it. I'll sell it back to the partner.
Nice.
So it's kind of
Nice.
creates them a way to get out of the 9-to-5 life.
And a good way for you to exit the company and move on to something
Yeah.
else, different project.
Makes it lower risk and a quicker exit than waiting 5-10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So why did you, so your dad started this company in 1964. You kind of got your feel for entrepreneurship doing other things. Why didn't you get into your dad's business right out the gate?
The rebellious teenager
Yeah, sure.
attitude.
But it pulled
Yeah.
you back
I
in.
fucking hated pool tables, man. I fucking hated them, dude. So since I was 5, I worked summers with him, right? So I was I got $500 a summer, and I worked with him, right?
You got $500 a summer.
A summer.
You got damn slave driver.
Dude, what a deal,
And I
right?
was making that like in a week doing landscaping at
Yeah.
like 12.
So I'm like, dude, like, what is going on? So, you know, I do all of that, and then, you know, working for your father, it's a little difficult because
Terrible.
right,
I hope my dad's listening.
right? You know, I mean, and my dad's great. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, he's that hard-nosed guy. He's 80 years old, right? He's a baby boomer, complete different generation.
Cash
They
is
don't-
king.
They don't talk to you
yeah.
the same, you know. You fucking. This is how we're gonna
Get
do
it done.
Yeah.
There's no compassion. It's
Yeah.
like, here we are, we're working 12 hours. I know you're hungry. I don't care. Keep going.
Yeah. Like,
My dad's an animal.
we'll talk
so
about
I know.
this when we finish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So out of the two company exits that you had, which one was the most profitable? And did you go into those businesses with the idea to exit already in your mind?
I mean, I came into the companies. The first one, the landscape company. I'll just go through them in order. The landscape company I started it for a friend.
Yeah.
They came to me, said they didn't want to work the job they were working, and asked me if they could work for me. I couldn't afford them at the billiard company. We could do like $10 an hour, right? Like it was just like 2018. And so they came to me, and I was like, dude, we used to mow grass when we were kids. Like, let's just do a landscape company. So I go to John Deere. I commit to like 15, 20 grand worth of equipment. And 3 months later, they quit.
Oh wow.
So I was like,
There
you know,
you are with your own landscape company.
I'm like, I got to figure out a way
Party
to pay
of
for
one.
this, right? So, you know, and then the next year I got a new partner, and we carried that through all of 2020,
Yeah.
which was kind of crazy, and it was a blessing and a curse at the same time because the furniture company got shut down, but the landscape company was like hitting record numbers, and so we at the end of the 2021 or at the end of 2020 we go into 2021 we start, and everybody's still on what was that $650 a week for unemployment or whatever.
Yeah.
So we had 6 guys, a crew of 6 guys running the company, and 4 of them were taking unemployment.
Jesus.
At the same time, I get in December 28, 2020, I get sick with ulcerative colitis. So I don't know if you know what that is. It's a little colon thing. It's basically like paper cuts in your colon. And so like you bleed or whatever. There's a lot of other things, the autoimmune disease. So like you're tired, whatever. So anyway, bouncing on a zero turn wasn't necessarily my fondest idea because, when your bowels move and your colon's inflamed, you don't really have minutes. You got seconds.
And if you're on a damn zero turn in the middle of nowhere, what do you do?
Exactly. I know exactly what you do.
Yeah, grab a spackle bucket. That's what my grandpa used to say.
But yeah, so that's the landscape coming out. I didn't really go into it to exit it, and I got out of it, luckily.
For health.
Yeah. That and the way I exited was pretty creative because it wasn't like a traditional exit. Like you sell it, like, EBITDA, none of that. Like, we're small business, man. Like we're not doing millions of dollars. Like we don't have, you're not going to sell a business less than $5 million, right? So it's like, how do you do that? Right. So was the creative way that I had to put this thing together. So I ended up selling the equipment. I sold the accounts, and then basically I took my partner. He paid me, and we kind of divvied up what was left, and I kept the ownership in the LLC, and then he went and started his own thing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. I think having accounts is really what's helpful, especially like landscape companies, small maintenance companies. If you've got those accounts, that's what you can sell.
Yeah. So I turned around and took that same philosophy with the detail company.
Yeah.
And that's where I made, a decent amount of money where, it was cash flowing every single month. It actually had statistics. It had systems. It was a fully operational business. It was a plug and play thing. All you had to do was have people to work it. And we had 4 guys. So we had 2 crews. When I exited, I took one half of the company, basically the equipment side. And then my partner bought me out. And then I'd closed a 2-year deal for the Cliffs, which was probably $300K,
Nice.
For all their properties. So when I left, they had 5 properties from the Cliffs, and then the 2 at the lakes they didn't have yet. But it was kind of like a domino, man. It was just, you just had to call them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How are they doing now?
Last time I spoke with the partner, Hunter, they're doing good.
Nice.
They still got the Cliffs, still rocking and rolling.
Hell yeah.
And I think he's doing what he wanted to with the company, like what he set out to do.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, like with a partner, it's hard because like visions are different, right? And especially in small business, man, like it's going to come to that make or break point where it's like, dude, like, I don't know if I want to go to the moon.
Yeah.
I'm good right here, like on Everest or something.
If your visions don't align, then.
Yeah, I stepped into a cabinet business and ended up dissolving it within a year because my partner just didn't get the vibe. Like he really didn't understand the whole, like he was an employee for so long and I gave him this opportunity, and then all of a sudden like he just kept that employee mentality.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you have to kind of take on some of this role, especially running a full business myself. I need help.
Right.
And then he just became more and more employee, and I'm paying him hourly, and I'm like, dude, what's the point? I'm just going to dissolve it and I'll eat up and take over and just keep going what I'm doing, and you could just keep installing for me hourly. What's the point?
Yeah.
So we got out of it, and then it was just like it's sad though, because like I'm thinking of like, okay, he's gonna get it, he'll get the idea that I've got, he's gonna take it farther than I can, and it's just like, but if it works, it works. You look at somebody like Ross and TJ, who they are like a match made in heaven, and they can blow something up. But so I think that's the toughest thing, is finding somebody that's sharing views.
For sure.
So tell me about, let's backtrack a little bit to Ledford Billard. So jumping into the business, your dad had owned it since 1964.
Yep.
So you coming in brand new, did you come in with the mindset, or did you come in with the agreement that you were going to wind up taking it over?
Kind of, sort of. So in the meeting, I told him, I was like, I'm not coming to work for you.
Yeah.
Like if I come in here, like I'll follow you for a year, tell me everything you need to know, or I need to know, and then I want to run it.
Okay.
Because I want to go here, and if he was 20 years younger, he would have wanted to go there too.
He's had it cranking before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So they had like 5-6 locations back in the 1990s, 2000s.
Nice.
They were selling like 800 pool tables a year, which is a fucking
insane
number.
Yeah.
And that's in the Southeast. And so I always say, like, my dad was the hardest worker I've ever met. I wouldn't say he's the greatest businessman, but by far, like 18, 20-hour days, a year straight, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
Like that, he'd be like, you know, and he did a lot of things too. So growing up, I saw, you know, multiple businesses being ran by him, like, and being in a small town, like he was like the guy.
Yeah.
So like we needed food. Like we didn't have a restaurant to go eat in Marietta. So like in the 80s, he built a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to Greenville TR. I'm going to build a restaurant.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
And then, so he did like car sales. He sold cars, all kinds of stuff. They used to rebuild, like before there was a salvage title thing.
Yeah.
He would rebuild cars. So you'd buy them wrecked and basically strip them all the way down to like the frame and rebuild them. Nice. So I remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I'd walk in and see the shops, and I would always be amazed by like they would be painting it, right?
Yeah.
They were like doing like hot rods. This was like West Coast custom type things, but
Yeah.
for 1995 Chevy, like 2-door short bed trucks.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm watching these like cool, crazy metallic paint schemes being painted. And
Especially if it was the 80s and stuff. Cool, like crazy pinstriping, cool
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
so
What was like one of the hardest things that you had to deal with coming into a business that's kind of like been past its prime? Now it's coming. It's like only doing 75,000
Yeah.
a year. So what did you find was the hardest thing to kind of get rolling to get to where you are today?
can't teach an old dog new tricks, man.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
trying to show him Google
QuickBooks, bro.
Yeah, QuickBooks.
Just that,
Yeah.
like, dude, let's get off
Simple.
of this paper.
He's pulling
Let's
out
get
like a
CR.
notepad with the ledger
Yeah,
on it.
he's like
Carbon
got-
copies, bro. The pink goes here, the yellow goes there, and the
Oh my
white's here.
God.
I'm like, dude. I'm like, where's the emails?
He's probably got an AOL.
Fucking
Yeah.
hate people who ask for my email. I don't ask for them. I'm like, yeah, that's
Jesus.
we're gonna get cell phone numbers and emails. That's gonna be the first thing we start asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so that took me like 6 months just to get
A somewhat
the
process.
guys that were already there, because I'm at that time I was 23,
Yeah.
so I'm just this, and they've known me my whole life.
Yeah.
So they're like, this is Cameron. Like,
Just little old Cameron.
yeah, like
Yeah.
this, whatever. He won't be here long,
Yeah.
Great
And I'm-
ideas, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, yeah, that sounds good.
Attaboy.
Yeah. Tell us later tell us at lunch. We'll
Yeah,
get back to work.
Right. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm serious about this. Like, we got to get email. Like, they're answering the phone, like,
What do you want?
hello.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, nah, this is, Ledford Billard Supply. This is Cameron. That's,
Yeah.
That's how we're going to start answering
Put a
these
little
phone
customer
calls.
service on it.
Just, I'm not asking for much. Let's
Yeah.
just put a little sugar in the cake,
For sure.
Yeah. Get people to call back.
Exactly, right?
or
Like,
hopefully buy something.
yeah. So, and us being in Marietta, so he was still operating out of what was once his warehouse. And in 2008, he closed everything down and went just to his warehouse. Smart move on him, because like the next 5-10 years was, pretty rough as far as the pool table industry wide goes.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like coming back.
Yeah.
And
Would you see COVID kind of helped promote that even more, just because everybody's
By far.
staying at home, making their
blew the
house a little
door
bit
open,
more?
right?
Yeah.
So, funny story with that. March 13th, the world shut down, right? The world ended. February, the last day in February, I got the keys for my office downtown in 2020.
Nice.
So, but 2 weeks before the world ends, I'm sitting here with these,
Mortgage payment or rent payment.
rent. My dad's telling me it won't work, telling me I'm a fool for going downtown. The world ends. I'm thinking he's right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm banking on myself that I'm going to sell 2 pool tables this month to pay rent. Like I didn't have the rent going in. Like this was
Yeah.
I'm all on me, right? And so I ended up floating very creatively until June, and June hit. Everybody's stuck at their house, nothing to do, and they want to have fun. And sales just went left and right. I mean,
That's cool.
Amazon's popping off. The website's closing. The phone calls are coming in. We're going across the country. Like, I went to Chicago, New York, Florida, Houston, like 2 or 3 times each during COVID.
That's
Like,
crazy.
And everybody's like, you're not worried about it, this and that. And I'm like, that's God's choice,
I mean,
For
that's
sure.
great. So, I mean, how did you find that confidence to stay from, say, February, March to where everything dropped out to getting to that point in June to where you're like, oh, we're actually going to be okay? You had to have that headstrong perseverance,
Well, I mean, I say my beard's multicolored for a couple of reasons, and that was one
that
of
was
them.
it.
Yeah.
That's
That
that
was-
3 months.
Yeah, that was one of them. No, I'm not a quitter, man. Like every day, it sucked. Like I'm like, dude, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. It's stressful, but there was never a point in time where I was gonna sit there and be like, pick up the phone and call dad and say, yeah, you know what, you were right.
Yeah.
That was never going to happen. So like, my dad's always known the right way to motivate me. And like, so that was just one of the ways where I'm like, dude, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'll take my money from landscaping. I'll work twice as many hours in landscaping, but I'm never going to say, look, you know what?
It
I
can't
failed.
be done. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm kind of in the same situation right now. Like, I just jumped in. We went from a $985 a month rent to a $15,675 rent.
Yeah.
So talk about a jump. And we're not like, we don't have buku. I mean, we have money and we're good for, a few months, but we don't have bukus of money like saved up. It's like, that's what I feel like that as an entrepreneur that's extremely successful, that's the kind of mindset it takes. Like you have to have some kind of like plan in place. You can't just willy-nilly do it.
Yeah.
But you also have to have some kind of risk because that's where all the rewards at. The reward is baked into the risk because if making good money or being able to have money to do good things or whatever was easy and it had no risk whatsoever, everybody would be rich.
Yeah.
So I think that's a super important mindset that you kind of have to tap into. Like you're going to have to take risk in business. I feel like if you're going to be successful, it's just inevitable, and it's really what you do in those stressful situations because it's stressful. Like I slept till 10:30 yesterday, and it's probably all because I was stressed the fuck out.
Yeah.
But it's all about how you handle yourself in those situations and where you navigate your mind to whether you make it or not. I feel
I think the only time I ever get sick is from stress. Like I don't ever really get like colds or flu or anything like that. And then but if I'm out for the count, it's usually because like I've just stressed the shit out of myself for 5-10 days, didn't eat right, and now I'm like my body just can't do it anymore. My mind's still racing.
Yeah.
And I think that pushing forward is really the number one key. You always read about it. You always hear about it in successful stories where it's like, oh, I failed 1,000 times and I finally made it.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing that entrepreneurs really need to learn, especially a new one in the business. It is going to suck tremendously.
Yep.
And it's like 90% of the time it's going to suck. But that 10% that you will finally get if you keep pushing through that 90%, it's worth it. And it could be worth those times to take. I'm going to take off today and spend with my family, or I have an extra $1,000 in the bank to buy myself something nice.
Yep.
I think that's really the toughest thing about entrepreneurship is just like keep going.
Yeah.
Like how bad it gets, keep going. That's the only thing you can do. Like
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like once you've tapped into a level of entrepreneurship, like I'm not afraid to fail now. Like if Swamp Rabbit Moving was to shut down tomorrow, it's okay because I'm already in that mindset. I've already made these connections where I could go get a sales job for $200,000, save up enough money to do something else, and then I'd be on my way. Like I would never get tied down to another company, but I know my way in and out of now, and I've made so many connections that even if we fail, it's okay. My wife, when we met, I was living in a dining room floor on a mattress and driving a moped. So like she's seen me at my worst. So the fear of failure is not scary to me. Like it does not scare me whatsoever.
But it keeps you motivated to not get back there.
Absolutely. Like I don't wish to be back in that spot, but I like to see how far I can push it.
You can survive it if you have to.
Yeah, and I think too, like it's that fear that you get from, like I think when I exited quote unquote the rat race, right? Like the fear of going back to the rat race isn't as scary as it was when I first left, right? Because it was like, oh shit, it's right there.
Yeah, it was one dimensional, but now you see it from a different side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because now and I think too, like what you learn and the traits that you pick up through entrepreneurship, like I would recommend. I think every. We're gonna pause right there.
Cut.
We got some water damage over here.
We need
someone
new
call
mics.
Rainbow International. I spilled 6 gallons of water on your floor, Ken.
Like I think my seat's wet.
Just for record, that's because he's not drinking it quick enough.
Yeah. So I think with like entrepreneurship, the traits and the qualities that you like, I guess, evolve into or grow or pick up are so much more valuable outside of just business, right? And I think you see that with a lot of sports as well, right? So like I grew up playing baseball, and the odds are always stacked against you in baseball. So you go up to the plate, it's 9v1.
Yeah.
There's no other sport like it. You hit football, you might get double teamed.
Yeah.
Right? You might be in zone coverage, but you're not versus 9 people. You're not versus the entire other defense, right?
Yeah.
Like you got blockers. In baseball, it's 9 versus 1, and their whole job is to get you out.
Yep.
And so I think that's the same in business, because like 90% of them, I don't know the statistic, but most of them fail, right? You think about it like that. And so if you go in or even thinking about going into business, like you really got to think about the idea that, success isn't guaranteed. It's more or less probably expected. And so like lowering that bar of, I'm going to go out here and make the world's greatest company. Like, nah, it should be, I'm going to go out here to solve problems.
For sure.
I'm going to go out here and just solve one challenge a day. And then whatever the tally is at the end of it.
Stack them.
Yeah, stack them.
Love it. You're huge into self-development too. Like you're always going to these Grant Cardone's 10X or whatever. Tell me why that's important to you. What is it? Because you're always trying to learn and grow and evolve, or is it because like essentially I started going to these things because I didn't know nothing about business, and this is how I've learned?
Well, for me, it started with fitness back when I was like 19, 20 years old. I used to weigh like 220 pounds, and I was like, I got to lose some weight.
Yeah.
I got to like at least get somewhat attractive. And because I was like 220, bro. I was chilling, like video games, pizza, Papa John's, like we're good.
Yeah.
I'm like, so it started out just by losing weight. Like, all right, I'm going to try to lose a pound a day. And then that evolved into, well, I've got my physical health. Like now I need to get my mental health. So I started reading. Well, now I need to get more educated, and then spiritual health. So all of that's evolved, and then it just came into business, and now it's like part of my life.
Yeah.
You hear it now on YouTube, and all these guys talk about 1%, that 1% a day, but like I was doing that in 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And that's really carried me to where I am, especially mentally.
Yeah.
Because the kid I was, he believed and he dreamed, but he didn't execute. He was afraid to really push any barrier.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And then, going to like the growth conference or these business boot camps, stuff like that. Really what I didn't expect was I was going to meet people just like me. And like growing up where I grew up with, and like the people that I was surrounded with, there was nobody like me. I just thought something was wrong. I was weird, whatever.
Yeah, you grew up in Marietta.
Misunderstood. Yeah, like shit.
Population 20.
Exactly, right? So I'm like, but nobody thought like me. Nobody had the same visions. I couldn't communicate, so I was kind of like, felt like an outcast, I guess, but more or less I just didn't connect.